which meant that on occasion I had to go to his apartment in the yeshiva to be able to discuss with him various inyanim that had to do with the Talmidim. So I knock on the door, and he answers the door, and he says, "Oh, come in." I come in, and he's holding a Hebrew newspaper. I think it was the Hatzofer. Do they still have the Hatzofer? I don't know. But in any case, it was a Hebrew newspaper. And he says to me, which seemed to me in a very harsh tone, "Did you write this?" And of course, I was totally convinced that, of course, I did not. Why? Because I never published something in a Hebrew newspaper in my life. So he shows it to me, and lo and behold, it has my name on it as the author of this article, Rabbi Aharon Kahn, Yeshivas Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. So I realized what happened. I had once published a ma'amar in a Torah journal, and someone, unbeknownst to me, took it and he published it in this Israeli paper before the Yom Tov of Shavuot. So I look up at him and sheepishly have to admit, yes, I wrote this. And I was about to say but and give some background. I don't know. I felt very accused for some reason. And he says to me, again in that kind of voice, "It's pretty good." So then Baruch Hashem, I calmed down. But what was this article all about? So I wanted to share that with you. There's a very intriguing pasuk in Parashat Shemot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself for the very first time to Moshe Rabbeinu. Where is this revelation taking place? At the Sneh. The Sneh is burning, and Moshe Rabbeinu wonders what is this incredible scene that he's witnessing, and he comes closer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Shal ne'alecha v'chulei v'chulei," and then he says to him, "I want you to be the messenger that goes to Paro to ask him, to insist, to convey to him that Hashem is taking his people out of Egypt." And Moshe Rabbeinu, as you all know, was not happy. He did not believe that he was the candidate that was meant for this job. Why not? Many reasons. First of all, he's a kvad peh. Kvad peh ukvad lashon anochi. He doesn't have the language and he doesn't have the physical ability. He stutters, whatever it is that was the impediment. He's not a spokesman. He's not a speaker. He's not an orator. That's problem number one. Problem number two, Moshe Rabbeinu is not the candidate for the job simply because he was never really with the people. He was in the palace until he grew up, and then he left. And he didn't just leave, he ran away. Why did he run away? Because he was in danger, because he had killed someone. So already reason number three why he shouldn't be the candidate. Kvad peh, kvad lashon, he doesn't know the people, doesn't know how connected to them, and he's a wanted man. And besides everything else, there is a perfect candidate waiting in Mitzrayim. And that is his brother Aharon. His brother Aharon has all of the ma'alot and none of the chesronot, none of the negatives and all of the positives. So Moshe Rabbeinu seems to be very entitled to tell Hashem, please, Hashem, take Aharon. And Hashem says, no, it has to be you. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, Mi anochi, who am I? Ki elech el Paro, that I'm able to go to Paro. V'chi otzi et bnei Yisrael mi Mitzrayim. I can't take the people out of Egypt either. They won't listen to me. He won't listen to me. I won't get past what we call first base. So now the question is, what is Hashem's response? So Hashem says, Ki eya imach, I will be with you. If you're afraid you'll be killed or this or that or whatever, don't worry, you won't be killed. This is the sign, the proof, ki anochi shlachticha, that I sent you. When you take the Jews out of Egypt, the people will be big exodus from Egypt, then you will come to this mountain, and here you will worship the mountain, here you will receive the Torah. So listen to what he's saying. Hashem is telling him, this is the proof, that when you come out, you'll see kolot, uberakim, and an esh, and an incredible spectacle that everyone will understand. You are my messenger. No doubts, no questions whatsoever. So a lot of the Mefarashim, and I myself, when I looked this pasuk for the first time in my life, whenever it was as a child, I was wondering a simple question, but an overwhelming question. What is the question? Pashut. Imagine for a moment that Bnei Yisrael are in doubt. Who says he spoke to Hashem? Who is this Hashem anyhow? What's going on? Paro doesn't pay attention to this, and Paro thinks he's God. He's gonna, and then the people they're miserable and they're enslaved and they're suffering and they have no patience for Meshechim, for people who come and say it's time, the Geula, the Geula, the Geula. So Hashem says, you need to provide them with the proof. So I'll give you the proof. When they come to Har Sinai, you'll have all the proof that you need. So Moshe Rabbeinu has to ask Hashem, the problem is that I can't get to Har Sinai. The problem is I can't even take them out of Egypt. They have to believe me now. So what good is it that I'm going to talk about Har Sinai? There's a stockbroker. The stockbroker. Mr. Stein, he's my stockbroker. Mr. Stein calls me up. He's an old friend. I've been trading and doing transactions with him, buying and selling on the market for years, and with tremendous success. In fact, he's made for me millions of dollars. Mr. Stein calls me up and he says to me, Rabbi Kahn, what I've done for you in the past is nothing compared to what I'm about to do for you. What is that? He says, I have this stock, I have some insider information, this is going to be something, azains and azalchus. It's going to be mashu lo ye'uman. You're not even going to believe what you're going to make money on this stock. So I want you to take everything that you made until now. You plunk down $5 million on this stock. I'm guaranteeing you in a week, you will double your money. I'm looking at him and I'm saying to him, I don't know. It's not a cautious approach. It's, I may lose the money. Things can happen. You never know from one day to the next. And I'm very hesitant, to be honest with you. I don't want to take chances like that. So Mr. Stein says to me, listen, Rabbi, did I ever fail you? Did I ever in all these years give you a bum stock? Isn't it true that every time I made a recommendation, in spite of all of the analysts and everything else that's going on, you always hit the mark and made the money? I have to admit that is true. We started out with $50,000 and now I'm very rich. He says, well, on that basis, I want you to believe and trust me that I know what I'm doing. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't, but it makes sense. What his argument is makes sense. Now, let me ask you a question. It's not Mr. Stein. It's Mr. Goldberg. I never saw this person in my life. He never spoke to me a single word. Not one word. Mr. Goldberg calls me up. How did he get my name? From the telephone book. Looked up all of the rabbis in Flatbush. Apparently he skipped A and he went right away to K. And he's calling and he's calling. And finally I answer the phone. Who is this? My name is Goldberg. You don't know me, but I'm going to make you a very wealthy man indeed. Oh yeah? How are you going to do that? I tell you, I have a recommendation of a stock you never even heard of it. It's a real company. It's real, but you never heard of it. It's been sitting and doing nothing for years. But they invented something new and it's going to come out on the market. Before that, you'll buy it and you'll make a fortune in a matter of weeks or days even. So I say to myself, this guy I never saw before in my life, I know Mr. Stein, makes a lot of money for me, but the Goldberg, who's Goldberg? I said, how much do you like, what do you have in mind over here? Like, what kind of investment is going to make me a lot of money? You have to start out with a lot of money to make money. If I double $100, I have $200. It's not going to make me rich. He said, no, you don't understand. I understand that you have about many millions of dollars. I want you to take it all of it. And you want me to take all of it? And you want me to invest in a stock that I don't know who you are? I've never heard the stock before in my life. He says, yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to tell you something. So you should feel more comfortable about making this trade, this deal. After I make for you to double your millions, I have another recommendation in a few weeks from now that's going to triple your money in no time whatsoever. So because I'm going to do that, I want you to trust me about this transaction. Does that make any sense? Is there any reason or logic that I should believe him? Because he's telling me that after this, he's going to do something else that's even better? I don't believe him about anything unless I've seen it in the past. If he has a track record from the past, you can have confidence for the future. But from a future, you can't have confidence for today. It doesn't make any sense. So I tell Mr. Goldberg, you're an idiot. Goodbye and good luck. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem, b'chvodo v'asmo. He says to Moshe Rabbeinu what? He says, you're asking for a sign, just go back and tell them there's going to be a Maimed HaSinai and then they'll believe you. About Yitzias Mitzrayim. About Yitzias Mitzrayim, you have every proof in the world. Why? Because after that, you'll go to Har Sinai. Whoa, it's going to be Kolotu Brakim, Anan Kaved Alahar. V'kol HaShofar Olech V'chazek, Moshe Yedaber V'Elogim Ya'anenu B'kol. Oh, it's going to be something unbelievable. It's ridiculous. I mean, when you think about it on the surface, it doesn't make any sense. This question was asked by Kima'at, every Mefaresh, every Rishon, and each one answers in his own way. You know what the Rambam answered in the 8th perek of Yesodei HaTorah, in the Mishneh Torah, Yala Chazaka. In Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah, the Rambam says that the question is the answer. It's an amazing thing. He says, your question is so strong, it's exactly what Hashem was telling him. Moshe Rabbeinu wants a note, Aleph Vav Taf, an ot, os. He wants a sign, a proof. So Hashem says you can do all kinds of signs. You can turn snakes into sticks and sticks into snakes. You can make your hand sarat. You can make it not sarat. You can do all kinds of things. You can even do Kriyat Yam Suf. It's not an ultimate proof. Because the only ultimate proof is Ma'amad Har Sinai. Why? Be'eznenu shamanu velo zar be'einenu ra'inu velo acher. Ech HaKadosh Baruch Hu omer Moshe, Moshe, lech emor lahem kach v'kach. And that's what the pasuk says later. Ba'avur yishma am b'dabri imach. The people will hear when I speak to you. V'gam b'cha ya'aminu le'olam. So even though by Kriyat Yamsuf, doesn't it say v'ya'aminu b'Hashem u'b'Moshe abdo? Apparently, according to the Rambam, that's not enough because it's not le'olam. Le'olam by him means, by the way, not just forever in time. It means totally, completely, absolutely. A complete and absolute emunah and a knowledge that it's from Hashem. The Rambam says this is exactly what the Pasuk is saying. You want a sign, I'll give you temporaries. But you want a permanent proof? You're not going to have a permanent proof until the ultimate proof that you are my messenger will only be when they come to Har Sinai. He says, you're right. I don't have a proof for you. You're going to have to take your chances. And the Rambam is very, very important because what the Rambam is saying is, it's the only religion in the world that was corroborated by people hearing Hashem speaking to the Navi. All the other Navi'im, they've made it up. And there are people that say, well, we heard it, we had a dream, we had a vision, we had a this, we had a that, but you don't have a Klal Yisrael hearing the voice of Moshe Rabbeinu communicating and also hearing the voice of Hashem communicating with him. And all of Klal Yisrael is there. You can't even make up such a story. That was the terutz of the Rambam. But that's not what I wrote, because people can read the Rambam on their own. They don't need an article in Hatzofeh or in the Torah Journal, where it all started. So what did I write? I wrote as follows. Very interesting. First thing I noticed was, V'zeh lecha ha'ot. What is the lecha for you? Because really it should be V'zeh lahem ha'ot. Because he doesn't have any doubts about Hashem. He sees the snare. He knows Hashem is talking to him. He's accepting that 1,000%. So what is the problem? The problem is he's supposed to go and convey this to the people who are miserable and tired and suffering, and they're not going to listen to him. Hein lo ya'aminu li, v'lo yishmu b'koli. So what's the zilchaot? This sign is for you. And I'll give you a mashal. I'll explain to you what I mean. It says, Benogea in Parashat Bo, at the end of the parasha, it says, Vaya lecha leot al yadecha ulezikaron beneinecha. Lecha leot. The tefillin shel yad is for you a sign. What does that mean? For you. That's where Chachamim learn that you cover the tefillin shel yad. Because they learn, Vaya lecha laot, v'lo la'acherim laot. It's not a sign for others. It's a sign only for you. So we cover our tefillin. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses the same language, that means the same thing. It means Hashem is giving something that he needs to understand. This isn't something for the people. So what is it that he needs to understand? So I started by giving a lesson in American history. There was something called the Declaration of Independence. In 1776, July 4th. For us, it's a weekend.
See also this, when I get off Zoom and I go back on, I lose the voice every time. Let me try this maybe.
I took care of it. Continue, Rabbi.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the Rebbeinu Shalom is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu v'zeh lecha ha'ot. So I was thinking that a very good parallel is the history of the United States in its inception. You know, there was a Declaration of Independence. What does that do? What does that document say? That we are now no longer the servants, the subjects, it's called, but we are no longer the responsibility of King George. We are now free. We are independent. It is a declaration of independence. Now that they're free, what's next step? You have to have laws to govern yourself. If you're not subject to the laws of the British Empire, then what are you? So the answer is, I'm my own person, but your own person, you have to have laws. What is that called? There's another document. The document is called the Constitution of the United States. You know, there was a big time lag between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and they're separate documents. They're in separate pieces of paper or parchment. They are in separate places. Even now, today, they are in the separate pieces of glass. This isn't one document. Because Declaration of Independence is one thing, and then governing yourself is something else. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling to Moshe Rabbeinu, you are the one who's going to give Bnei Yisrael the Torah. That is why you are here at the snare. That is why I'm revealing myself dafka to you. You have a problem with going to Bnei Yisrael. You have a problem taking them out of Egypt. You have a problem going to Paro. And you have a very good solution for me. You'll take one half of the job. You'll give them the Torah. And Aharon, my brother, who's a much better candidate for all the reasons that I'm not, he'll take the trip to Paro, and he'll take Bnei Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, and he'll set them free, and then I'll take over. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? The perfect plan. That everybody's doing what he's supposed to do at the best of his capabilities. Aharon is articulate. Aharon belongs to the people. He's not afraid. Nobody's chasing after him to kill him. He is the perfect candidate in Mitzrayim. I will take over once they get out of Mitzrayim. I'm perfectly happy to give them the Torah. What's wrong with that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no. Why do you think that Yetziat Mitzrayim is beginning here at the snare? The first moment of Yetziat Mitzrayim is happening right now. And I am choosing you. Because in Judaism, in Yahadut, there is no declaration of independence separate from the Constitution. The Constitution is the Declaration of Independence. Ki li b'nei Yisrael avadim, avadaihem asher hotzeti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim. Ki li b'nei Yisrael. Because we belong to Hashem, that is what sets us free. Ein lecha ben horin, ela mi she'osek b'Torah. And the truth of the matter is the freedom of the Jew. You know what the real freedom is? The ultimate freedom, self-control, not being subject to your Yetzer Hara. This is the secret of Yahadut, not to be subject to the Yetzer Hara. It could be a Yetzer of all kinds. The Gaon of Vilna had two kinds of Yetzer Hara. He called one of them the Koach HaTa'avani, and the other one he called Koach HaKa'asani. Koach HaTa'avani is physical desire for food, desire for relations that are not permissible. This is a ta'ava. From this ta'ava, at least temporarily, you can be satiated. Then there's the Koach HaKa'asani, that's a redifat hamamon v'hakavod, lording over other people. That's a much more human ta'ava. Animals don't have that. The first one they have. We share it with animals. We have desires to eat and to reproduce. But the other one, this is a human thing. Kavod, money, 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 money. How do you get rid of that? How do you control those forces who are ultimately our masters? That's how we start out as a baby. Did you ever see a baby? It's one big mouth and grabbing for themselves. How do we do that? The answer is we purify ourselves and fix ourselves constantly over and over again by listening to Hashem, by keeping His Torah, by keeping His mitzvot. By being an Eved Hashem, we become free. Ein lecha ben chorin, as I said, elemisha osek b'Torah. So it really is freedom, but it's a freedom because we belong to Hashem. There's no such thing as a declaration of independence that sets us free. That's the problem of the Rasha in the Haggadah. That's exactly what his problem was. His problem was that he's saying, Ma avodah hazot lachem. This is not freedom. This is not the festival of freedom. Freedom is to do whatever you want. Freedom is to enjoy life. Freedom is to have a good time. Freedom is to be your own thing, to do your own thing. That's if there would be a declaration of independence. Hashem did not want that Aharon should be the one that takes them out of Mitzrayim. Should we never think that these are two separate things? That freedom is freedom, and then we have responsibilities. It's not so. Responsibilities make us free. And that's what Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu. You're asking me a very good question. Why do you have to do part number one? Why isn't it enough to do part number two? I'm telling you because there is no part number two. It's all part number one. It's all one thing. Because you're the one who has to give them the Torah. And this is one thing, one moment. And that's, by the way, obviously why Shavuot is so totally connected with Pesach that it doesn't have a date of its own in the Torah. It's 49 days later. On the 50th day. 50th day from what? Because there's no declaration of independence. It's all chativa achat. It's all one thing. That's what I wrote. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying. I'm not looking to give you a sign for the people. I want you to understand it. Why is it? Mi anochi ki elech el paro. I'm sorry, but you're the one who has to do it because there cannot be two people. We don't want two documents. We don't want two different perceptions. We want that everyone should understand it is one thing. It's all Matan Torah. And Bezat Hashem Yitbarach, when we go to the Shavuot holiday, we're still ringing in our ears that message. And I want you to know, this is a world that if there ever was a time, maybe in ancient Rome, I don't know, we weren't there, I don't know what went on over there. But in modern times, if there was ever a time that completely and totally rejects what I just said in the street, in the world, on the internet, it's exactly that. The whole world is now immersed in being free as long as you don't hurt somebody else. The antithesis of Torah and mitzvot. And that's why it's especially important to re-energize ourselves, to recommit constantly, day after day. You know, say, you have to say, Torah tehei umnatir. Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us the Ezra. Tashlet banu Yesahara. And Kof et Yisraelu. For Ma'asim Tovim, for Torah, for mitzvot, because the world is completely going in the opposite direction. We should be zocheh. That in that recommitting ourselves, we should be free of all the tzarot. She'yomer letzarotenu dai. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give out the geula sheleima b'me'era v'yameinu amen. Chag kasher v'sameach.
Amen.
Amen, amen, amen.
Amen.
Shefatai Mishak.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Bezrat
Thank you,
Hashem,
everyone.
we continue our relationship.
And Bezrat Hashem will be zochet to see the Geula Shlema.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Rabotai, thank you. Have a great day. And Shavu, Hag Sameach, B'karov Shabbat Shalom.
Okay.
Chag Sameach. Thank you. Good to see the Rabbi.
Good to see you. Thank you.